This guy. Anybody know who he is? Take a good look. Democrats think he's all that. He's not. He's a total drama queen. Can I say that? Governor Josh Shapiro, who's very, very afraid right now because Jimmy Fallon temporarily lost his show. Check this out.
Free speech and speech has been in the spotlight this week after the news that ABC pulled Jimmy Kimmel, comedian, off the air after comments that he made on his late night show. What was your reaction to learning that he'd been pulled off the air?
Fear, just worry for our country.
You worry for our country. And forgive me, Jimmy Fallon, wherever you are, I think I incorrectly said your name, although you're sometimes iffy. Jimmy Fallon lost his job for how long, right? 3 days, it turns out. Can I see what he said again? This was a horrible thing he said. Kimmel! Goodness gracious. The Jimmies. Let me just call him Jimmy. The MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them. Now, that is a terrible, horrible thing to say. And Charlie Kirk was not killed by MAGA. All right? We loved him. Absolutely. He was killed by a crazy leftist. The evidence is overwhelming. Look at all those people who showed up for the memorial in Phoenix. That's amazing. And Jimmy Kimmel blamed all of them for what happened to Charlie Kirk. That is a pretty disgusting thing, and you can lose your job, or you should, potentially, over something like that. That would be a good thing in my book, and it's not what Governor Shapiro said, or these worrywarts.
Jimmy Kimmel is gone now. You need to see what is happening right now. It is the systematic destruction of free speech in this country.
It's pretty clear that this is a direct attack on free speech.
What we are doing is eroding little by little the freedom of the press, the freedom of speech, on which our democracy relies.
It's Trump's most high visibility authoritarian attack on free speech. And yet, that's really saying something.
Jimmy Kimmel basically got a long weekend. He got a long weekend. When did he? Thursday, Friday, Monday. He's back on TV tomorrow. Jimmy Kimmel returns to TV tomorrow night. Now, there are some broadcasters out there like Sinclair. They say they're not going to run his show. That happens sometimes. Not just to Jimmy Kimmel, but to broadcasters left and right for decades. 2 weeks ago, and all the way back in the 1950s, people got in trouble, sometimes very serious trouble, for saying things that were either deeply offensive or deeply untrue. It's like, it's no big deal. It's certainly not a threat to democracy. Brian Williams, NBC Nightly News for a long time. Remember the controversy when he started telling stories about what happened in Iraq?
2 of our 4 helicopters were hit by ground fire, including the one I was in.
No kidding.
RPG and AK-47.
All right, well, that didn't happen. And a lot of things that Brian said happened, didn't happen. And what happened to him? He was suspended for lying. Now, that was speech, right? It was speech. Was it a threat to democracy that he lost his position for a couple of months? No. How about this? It happens to giants like that. He was a big dude. And it happens to recent college graduates, their first day of work. You're going to hear a beep sound. That's a guy named AJ in his first reporting job, cursing his very first moment on TV.
You're watching the Evening Sunday on NBC North Dakota News, your news leader in high definition.
Good evening, I'm Van Tu. You may have seen our newest report, AJ, on NBC North Dakota News, and he'll be joining the weekend news team as my co-anchor. Tell us a little bit about yourself, AJ.
Thanks, Van. I'm very excited. I graduated from West Virginia University, and I'm used to, from being from the East Coast.
All right, well, Van was totally flabbergasted, and he lost his job after one day on air for the profanity that he used. Personally, I don't think he should have been fired. However, I do think arrangements should have been made for him to repeat maybe the 5th grade. Tell us a little bit about yourself, AJ. What did you say again?
Thanks, Van. I'm very excited. I graduated from West Virginia University, and I'm used to, from being from the East Coast.
Yeah, life on the East Coast. Nobody ever, anyway, is a very peculiar young man. I understand he's reporting somewhere. All right, again, we can just go through this. Don Imus, radio legend. Anybody remember his ribald and nasty commentary for the basketball ladies?
Oh, some rough girls from Rutgers, man. They got tattoos and
some hardcore hoes.
That's some nappy-headed hoes there. I'm gonna tell you that now. Man, that's some. Ooh. And the girls from Tennessee, they all look cute, So.
Yeah, well, anyway, terrible thing to say, and they yanked him off the air pretty much right away. I think he came back to radio later, but he was in trouble. So it happens. Oh, how about this one? This is Jimmy the Greek. Anybody remember Jimmy the Greek Schneider? He had like this. He was like the oracle of sports. And then one day at some lunch, he had a few things to say about everything.
The slave owner would breed his big black to his big woman so that he could have a big black kid, see?
And Snyder said that's why blacks excel over whites in sports.
The black is a better athlete to begin with because he's been bred to be that way because of his high thighs and big thighs that goes up into his back.
All right, nobody liked that. That was all the way back in 1988, and Jimmy was fired. Oh, by the way, he wasn't done.
Is it equal? What about in sports?
Well, they've got everything. If they take over coaching like everybody wants them to, there's not going to be anything left for the white people. I mean, all the players are black. I mean, the only thing that the whites control is the coaching jobs. Now, I'm not being derogatory about it, but that's all that's left for them. The black talent is beautiful.
And he went on like this, digging himself a very, very deep hole. It happened in the 80s. It happened last week. It happened 2 weeks ago. This is, I do not like this fellow. This is Matthew Dowd. Doesn't stand for anything but his pursuit of money and power. He helped defend the Iraq War. He marketed it for George W. Bush. And listen to what he said about the Charlie Kirk shooting.
He's been one of the most divisive, especially divisive younger figures in this, who is constantly sort of pushing this sort of hate speech or sort of aimed at certain groups. And I always go back to hateful thoughts lead to hateful words, which then lead to hateful actions.
Like getting shot. Are you crazy? So he was fired for blaming Charlie Kirk for his own death. Nobody stood up and said it was a threat to democracy, right? They just saw, oh, we have an angle now. Oh, everybody loves Jimmy Kimmel. No, they don't. One more, if you don't mind. Don Lemon. They asked him from the CNN. He was too fake news, even for CNN. Watch him, well, say something wrong about Kristi Noem and some other people.
She says people, politicians or something are not in their prime. Nikki Haley isn't in her prime. Sorry. When a woman is considered to be in her prime in her 20s and 30s and maybe 40s.
What are you talking? Wait.
That's not according to me.
Prime for what?
It depends. I mean, it's just like prime. If you look it up, if you Google when is a woman in her prime, it'll say 20s, 30s, and 40s. I don't necessarily.
40s. Oh, I got another.
I'm not saying I agree with that. So I think she has to be careful about saying that politicians aren't in their prime.
We need to qualify. Are you talking about prime for like childbearing, or are you talking about prime for being president?
What the facts are. Google it.
Google it. When have we ever been led astray by Google? Don Lemon fired for ageism and also being a jerk all around. There are all kinds of issues with him backstage. All right, last one. There was a guy named Tex Antoine all the way back in the day who made a lighthearted comment about child rape. And he was suspended before he was fired. Tex Antoine, the famous weatherman back in the day. Now, they'll say, well, the difference here is that the FCC got involved. That's actually pretty standard when these kinds of things happen, or if they happen too much, the FCC will most certainly get involved. This is Brandon Carr talking to our friend Benny Johnson about what just went down and what could happen next.
frankly, when you see stuff like this, I mean, look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. These companies can find ways to change conduct, to take action, frankly, on Kimmel, or, there's going to be additional work for the FCC
ahead. Like what? Like what? Chairman or Commissioner Brendan Carr, he has some options.
Again, there's actions that we can take on licensed broadcasters. And frankly, I think that it's really sort of past time that a lot of these licensed broadcasters themselves push back on Comcast and Disney and say, listen, we are going to preempt. We are not going to run Kimmel anymore until you straighten this out, because we licensed broadcaster, are running the possibility of fines or license revocation from the FCC.
You do run the possibility when you say these kinds of things. And that's why normal broadcasters apologize when they do something like that. And if it's so egregious, maybe you come back to work, maybe you don't. So that's Brendan Carr of the FCC, right? He's the head guy there. He said it on a podcast. Big deal. You notice half of America right now, or half of the media, they're always stupendously offended by somebody said something on a podcast. And fines from the FCC or worse, hey, just ask Howard Stern, right? How Howard Stern left radio because the employers were so nervous about the fines and license stuff, and he went on to make $1 billion at least over there at Sirius. Good for him. So it's not a threat to democracy when these guys lose their jobs or get suspended, all right? No matter what Shapiro says of Pennsylvania, right? This guy, oh, he's afraid. Well, you can sleep easy now. Jimmy Kimmel got his job back, and that goes for this guy and the media and the rest. It's fascinating, though, how you put it. This is a threat to democracy. This is, authoritarianism. This is like a fascist. Fascist! President Trump was right. This does not get nearly enough attention. He had to say it out loud. That kind of rhetoric that we heard back then and that we hear today about President Trump puts his life in danger.
I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy.